So here we are again with part 2 of chapter 53 from Where Did Your Heart Go? And we'll just get back going to it because things are getting really exciting. I knocked on the door to Sarah and Chris's room and wondered what I would tell them about last night. I really needed some time with Sarah so that she could help me talk through the cloudiness in my mind. Perhaps that would have to wait until we were back at home. The restaurant was fairly busy despite the early hour, and I guessed that many of the guests were participants and family members in the dance finals. I saw Charlie and Mitch seated at a table for two, over in the corner. They both glowed with youth, and I guess love if you could visibly see it. As we passed by James and his parents, they all smiled and said hello. I could see the haunted look in his eyes, as if imploring me to make my decision quickly. The butterflies in my stomach were still fluttering. Even though I'd eaten nothing yesterday evening, I was not remotely hungry. The venue seemed an even busier hive of activity as we made our way to get some refreshments, whilst Charlotte and Mitch headed off to their rehearsal rooms to practice and get ready. I picked up a programme and saw the running order had changed slightly, and Charlie's group was second on and then Mitch further back at around the halfway mark. As Chris excused himself, I grabbed coffee with Sarah. "So how did it go last night?" "Okay, I think," I replied. "I'm just so confused and I don't know whether to listen to my head or my heart." "Well, let me try and help you if I can." "Okay, James confessed to cheating on me with Felicity," I explained. "But it was only a one-night stand, and she got pregnant with Mitchell's older brother. The bitch threatened James with two options, to either stay and see his child or leave and have no contact at all. I can't really blame him for choosing his child in such a cruel choice. She also threatened to tell me that they'd been having an affair for months and James didn't want to hurt me any further. Somehow she did with that invitation to their wedding. What a complete bitch." "So what else happened?" she asked. I told her a little about New Year's Eve and showed him my scars. I watched him break apart in front of me. Then he kissed me. I could feel a blush staining my cheeks with heat at my admission. Sarah leaned forward and took my hand in hers. "Look, if you still love him, then I think you should give him a second chance. It will just depend on whether the trust has been broken with his infidelity, and if you can overcome that." "Thanks, Sarah. I've told him I need time to think about everything." "So, girls, are you ready to take your seats? The show's about to start," Chris grinned, holding out both his arms for us. Walking into the auditorium, I could feel nervous tension permeating the air. Everyone was in the same seats as yesterday, and I saw James just in front of us. He turned to scan the audience and gave me the fingers crossed sign for our respective children. I returned the gesture and felt myself smiling and blushing again like a teenager. I knew it was no good denying my feelings for him. They were still there, and they were still strong. I just needed to be sure that his for me were the same. The lights dimmed and everyone sat expectant in the darkness, waiting for the stage lights to illuminate the arena. I spotted the judges filing into their seats at the front and realised that one was Arlene Phillips from Strictly Come Dancing. I pointed this out to Sarah as we tried to contain our excitement against our jangling nerves. The first group dropped one of their dancers at the wrong moment, and I heard a collective groan from their supporters in the audience. They carried on regardless, and for that they still received loud applause as they bowed. I found that I was on the edge of my seat as the curtain fell, and after a few moments they rose again to reveal a set that looked breathtaking. Derelict planes painted onto the backdrop and what looked like a plane wing at an angle. I knew that this hid the steps that Charlotte would climb near the end before throwing herself into Mitchell's arms for the finale. It was so similar to the set of the video that I had to keep checking that I was not watching a television screen, but the real thing. Sarah squeezed my hand and told me breathlessly, "It looks fabulous." Before the music started to fill the space around us, its haunting melody made me close my eyes briefly as I remembered a time that this song meant everything. It was our song. In the darkness I couldn't see James, but I somehow knew he'd been turning to try and find me in the crowd. Watching my daughter and her group weave, leap and dance their way through the song gave it new poignancy. Charlie always stood out, despite the fact that the group wore identical outfits and were so in sync with each other that they flowed as one. I gasped as the audience did when a male figure appeared on stage as Charlotte fled up the steps. There was a brief pause as Charlie fell backwards off the platform and Mitchell caught her below as she snaked down his body for the finishing pose. It felt as if the whole auditorium needed time to take it all in, as the pause seemed to stretch into forever. And slowly there was applause, as everyone around us stood up and clapped and cheered. Tears streamed down my face, tears of joy and pride for my daughter up there. The applause went on for so long that the group had left the stage but then returned for a second bow. I could see Charlotte's face shining with happiness as they all bowed again, Mitchell still with them, holding her hand tight. As the judges asked for quiet, the next couple of groups came and went. I enjoyed the eclectic choice of 80s music that each had chosen, but none received as big an applause as my daughter's group. Then it was the turn of Mitchell's, and the stage lighting turned red. They had kept the Thriller theme with their zombie costumes, but I gasped in amazement at the different interpretation of the music and the skill of the group. Once again, Mitchell was the standout dancer among them all, with his acrobatic skills that left the crowd gasping in shock and surprise. Everyone was on their feet, clapping and cheering for a second encore. I saw Charlie standing in the wings, smiling and cheering them on. The final group were the ones from London, and they blew everyone away, so it seemed clear that the three in line for the prizes looked certain to be Charlie's, Mitchell's and the London group. The judges called for a brief refreshment break and then for everyone to return for their decision and a further performance. We filed out and I watched as people either scurried for refreshments or the conveniences. Sarah, Chris and I did the same and then went back in as we knew what was to come. As I made my way up the aisle, I saw Pam, Peter and James, all smiles again. By the time I reached my seat, my heart was racing once more at thoughts of our kiss last night. Then the lights started to dim and we were in darkness. A spotlight illuminated my daughter, standing alone in the centre of the stage. I knew that Julia had put some curlers in her hair so that it looked similar to babies in the film. Her black dress was the same style, and only served to highlight her pale skin. Then the first few notes of I've Had the Time of My Life floated out, and the audience gasped and some applauded as Mitchell walked onto the stage and motioned with his finger to her. I felt the first tear trying to squeeze its way out from the side of my eye. It was a tear of joy that my daughter was up there on the stage, and I knew she was dancing to her favourite song of all time. I glanced across at Sarah and Chris. "Nobody puts our baby in the corner," I heard Chris say to Sarah, and I watched her squeeze his hand. Watching Charlotte and Mitchell dance so perfectly in time to the music, it was again as if the film had come to life. I could see that even with little practice they were meant to dance with each other. And as Mitchell left off the stage and danced up our aisle, I watched Charlotte gazing at him with so much longing and love. Then from either side of the stage, two of the guys from Mitchell's group appeared and lifted her off. The spotlight was trained on her as she ran the short distance and leapt into the air. Mitchell held her high and they were frozen in time. The audience erupted and gave them a standing ovation as Mitchell gently lowered Charlotte to the ground. Filling the aisle and the stage were the rest of Charlie and Mitchell's groups in pairs. Charlie and Mitch made their way back up onto the stage as the audience remained standing, and some started to filter into the aisle and dance. Chris and Sarah slipped into the aisle and started to dance, and I saw James heading towards me. He held out his hand and I took it, and he held me in his arms. "Our children are magical when they dance together," he said. "Yes, they are." I could feel my heart racing as he held me close. My breathing had quickened, and we swayed together until the music faded. So what a lovely scene, and I'm sure many of you can just picture that iconic scene from the film Dirty Dancing, which the guys in the book have just recreated. Once again, I hope you're really enjoying this story as much as actually I am reading it to you. We're gradually getting towards the end now, so please stay tuned and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, if you want to read ahead and find out what happens next, you can buy the book on Amazon, or if you want a paperback copy and you like it signed, then please do get in touch by dropping me an email off my website, which is www.audrinalane.co.uk, and I'd love to do that for you. Anyway, take care, and I shall see you again next time. Bye for now.